Hey everyone, big thanks to LitRPG Reads and Paul Bello, fine fellow, for sending over this D&D class tier list article. It's always a lively discussion.
Oh, you're not kidding. Class tier lists can really get people going, especially in a game with as much history and passionate fans as D&D.
Right, it's like everyone has their favorite class, their go-to build, and sometimes those tier lists just throw a wrench into the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the point, though, isn't it? To get people thinking critically about the different classes, how they function mechanically, and how they fit into various playstyles and campaign settings.
Totally. And sometimes those tier lists can open your eyes to new possibilities.
Yeah.
Like maybe you've always overlooked a certain class, but then you see it ranked high, and you start thinking, maybe there's something to that.
I had that experience recently, actually. We started a new campaign, and one of the players chose a class I'd always considered a bit underwhelming, but they built the character in such a clever way, and they were role-playing it so well that it completely changed my perspective.
Ooh, spill the beans.
Yeah.
What class was it?
It was a ranger. I know. They often get a bad rap, but this player really leaned into the exploration and wilderness survival aspects of the class, and they were absolutely invaluable to the party.
That's awesome. It just goes to show that any class can shine in the right hands. Speaking of shining, let's dive into this article. DND Classes Tier List 2024, Prepare to Disagree, by Kiera Mensah. Even the title is setting us up for some spicy takes.
I like that Mensah acknowledges the inherent subjectivity of tier lists. Right off the bat, it's a good reminder that these rankings are ultimately just one person's opinion, and that the most important thing is to have fun and play what you enjoy.
Absolutely. But it's still fun to see how Mensah shakes things up and compare her rankings to our own experiences and preferences. She's using the classic S, A, B, C, and D tiers. So we'll go through each tier and break down her reasoning for placing each class where she did. Starting, of course, with the S tier, where we find the legends of D&D.
And kicking things off in the S tier is none other than the wizard. Not a huge surprise there, considering their reputation for powerful magic and versatility.
Mensah specifically calls out their access to the largest and most diverse spell list in the game, which makes them incredibly adaptable. They can blast enemies with fireballs 1 minute, then use subtle illusions to deceive their foes the next.
And it's not just about the sheer number of spells, it's the strategic depth that comes with having so many options. Wizards can specialize in particular schools of magic, tailoring their spell selection to suit their playstyle and the challenges they face.
That's a great point. A well-prepared wizard can be a walking encyclopedia of magical solutions, ready for just about any situation.
Exactly. And their ability to perform ritual casting further expands their capabilities. They can access spells that might not normally be available to them, providing utility and problem-solving potential that other classes just can't match.
Mensah also highlights a couple of subclasses that really exemplify the wizard's power: the divination wizard and the chronergy wizard.
Oh, yes. The masters of fate and time. The divination wizard's portent ability is a game changer, being able to manipulate dice rolls, guaranteeing success or failure. For yourself or your enemies can have a massive impact on the flow of combat, or even social encounters.
And the chronergy wizard, with their time-bending shenanigans, can be absolutely mind-blowing. I saw a chronergy wizard once turn back time to prevent a party member from getting hit by a critical attack. It was like something out of a movie.
It's easy to see why Mensah considers them top tier. Wizards offer a unique blend of raw power, strategic depth, and the ability to influence the game in ways that other classes simply can't.
Next to the wizard in the S tier, we have a class that might surprise some folks who haven't delved into their full potential: the cleric.
It's a common misconception to think of clerics as just healers. While they're certainly unmatched in their healing abilities, there's so much more, and walking first aid kits.
Mensah calls them both healer and combatant, highlighting their ability to dish out damage and stand on the front lines, while also providing vital support to their allies.
Their domains are a major factor in their versatility. You've got war clerics who can wade into combat and unleash divine fury, twilight clerics who excel at protecting their allies and weakening enemies, and so many other options, each offering unique tactical advantages and flavor.
Right. And those domains really let them specialize, which means they can fit into all sorts of party compositions and campaign settings as the ultimate team players.
And that's a crucial aspect of S tier. It's not just about being powerful, it's about being consistently valuable and adaptable to different needs.
Yeah, I'm curious about your take on this one, because I know in some of our games, clerics haven't always felt as impactful as, to say, a wizard blasting everything in sight.
That's fair. I think it really depends on the player's build and how they utilize their domain features. And spell selection, a cleric who focuses solely on healing might feel a bit overshadowed in combat-heavy encounters, but a cleric who embraces their combat potential, utilizing spells like Spirit Guardians or Inflict Wounds alongside their healing, can be a force to be reckoned with.
Good point. It's all about understanding the nuances of the class.
Yeah.
And building them in a way that suits your playstyle and the needs of the party.
And speaking of playstyle, who else could round out the S tier? But the charismatic, adaptable bard.
It wouldn't be a D&D tier list without the bards somewhere near the top. Mensah calls them the artisans of versatility. And I think that sums it up perfectly.
They're the masters of all trades. Combat, social encounters, exploration support, even a bit of musical magic thrown in for good measure. They can handle just about anything you throw at them.
They're truly the jack of all trades. But I have to admit, sometimes I wonder if that comes at the cost of being a master of none. Like, are they ever truly the best at anything?
That's a valid point. While they might not have the same raw power as a wizard, or the sheer durability of a fighter, their strength lies in their flexibility and their ability to contribute in a multitude of ways.
Right. Mensah really emphasizes how bards excel at thinking outside the box and using their skills in creative ways, whether it's charming their way through negotiation or using spells like polymorph to solve a tricky problem. They're always ready with a surprising solution.
And their impact on the game's narrative shouldn't be underestimated. They're the storytellers, the ones who weave those unforgettable moments into the campaign with their quick wit and charming personalities. I think that's something you can relate to, right?
Definitely. I love playing bards for that very reason. They bring a certain flair to the game that other classes just can't make.
And their bardic inspiration can be a game changer. Those little bonuses they can grant to their allies at just the right moment can make the difference between success and failure. It's all about timing and knowing when to support your teammates.
That's so true. And their subclass options further enhance their versatility. The College of Lore, for example, grants them incredible expertise and skills in spellcasting, making them even more adaptable and knowledgeable.
They're like walking libraries of information, but with the charisma and social skills to actually put that knowledge to use.
So we've got the wizard, the cleric, and the bard, all claiming their spots in the S tier. What do you think makes these three classes stand out as the legends of D&D?
I think it comes down to a few key factors. They all possess a high degree of versatility, allowing them to excel in a wide range of situations. They're consistent performers, rarely feeling useless, regardless of the challenge. And they often bring a unique flair to the game, whether it's through powerful magic, divine intervention, or the sheer charisma of a bard.
They're the classes.
Yeah.
When you see them on a character sheet, you know they're going to bring something special to the table.
Exactly. Now moving on from the legends, we enter the A tier, which Mensah describes as strong and dependable.
These are the classes. That might not be quite as universally dominant as the S tier, but they're still incredibly strong and reliable picks for any adventuring party.
And leading the charge in the A tier, we have the shining beacon of justice.
Paladins are all about that divine light, wielding their faith as a weapon and a shield. Mensah points out their incredible burst damage potential, with divine smite, making them a force to be reckoned with in combat.
And it's not just about offense. Paladins are known for their durability, standing firm on the front lines with heavy armor and defensive spells.
Their auras are another fantastic feature, buffing allies and radiating that holy power. Plus, their oaths add another layer of depth, letting them specialize in different aspects of their divine calling, like the selfless oath of devotion, or the vengeance-fueled oath of vengeance.
It's interesting how Mensah emphasizes the importance of choosing the right oath for your paladin. It really shapes their role in the party and how they approach challenges, both in and out of combat.
Totally. And speaking of shaping their role, next up in the A tier is the unpredictable, magically gifted sorcerers.
Sorcerers are fascinating. They're all about raw magical power, drawing it from their bloodlines and wielding it with an almost instinctive flair.
Mensah notes that their spell list might be more limited than the wizards, but they more than make up for it with meta magic, which lets them customize their spells in all sorts of awesome ways.
It's like they're taking those base spells and adding their own personal touch, making them even more potent and unpredictable, which is probably a bit intimidating for their enemies, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember playing a sorcerer once who specialized in subtle spell casting, I could cast spells without any verbal or somatic components, making it look like I was just willing things to happen with my mind. It was so much fun messing with the other players and the DM.
That sounds like a blast. Mensah gives some great examples of metamagic in action, like using Quicken Spell to cast a crucial spell and still take another action, or Subtle Spell to cast a spell without anyone noticing.
Those little tweaks can make a huge difference in a tight spot. It's all about maximizing your actions and being efficient with your spellcasting.
And it's not just about combat. Sorcerers can also be incredibly charismatic and persuasive, using their magic to influence people and situations.
They're the masters of bending reality to their will, whether it's through brute force or subtle manipulation. And rounding out our A tier, we have the nature-loving, shape-shifting druid.
The Druid, a class that truly embodies the connection between magic and the natural world. Mensah highlights their ability to command the elements, both to nurture allies and to unleash fury upon their enemies.
I love how they're described as weaving the ethereal into the tangible, bringing the power of nature to bear on any situation. It feels so thematic and evocative.
Their spell list is a mix of healing, control, and damage, letting them adapt to different roles as needed.
And of course, we can't forget about Wild Shape. It's such an iconic ability, allowing them to transform into different animals for combat exploration.
Or just to freak out their party members.
I remember playing in a campaign where the druid turned into a giant spider during a tense negotiation, let's just say. It added a certain urgency to the proceedings.
I bet. That's classic druid shenanigans right there. Mensah specifically calls out the Circle of the Moon subclass, where druids truly embrace their bestial side, becoming powerful shapeshifters, capable of taking on all sorts of forms.
They can become bears, wolves, even giant elementals. Yeah. Such a visually cool and mechanically diverse subclass.
So we've got paladins with their divine might, sorcerers wielding raw magic, and druids channeling the power of nature. What ties these three classes together in the A tier?
I think it comes down to their reliability and overall effectiveness. They might not have the same breadth of options as the S tier, but they excel in their chosen roles and rarely disappoint.
They're the solid picks, the ones you can always count on to contribute to the party's success in meaningful ways. And with that, we'll wrap up part 1 of our deep dive into the D&D Class Tier List 2024. Join us in part 2 as we delve into the B tier, where we'll explore classes that excel in specific niches and offer unique gameplay experiences.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the D&D Class Tier List 2024. We've explored the legends of the S tier and the strong and dependable classes of the AD. Now we descend into the B tier, where things get a bit more specialized.
That's right. These are the classes Mensah labels solid choices, meaning they might not be top performers in every situation, but they can excel in specific niches.
It's all about understanding their strengths and weaknesses and finding the right campaign and party composition to really make them shine.
Kind of like how a specific tool might be perfect for one job, but completely useless for another.
That's a great analogy. And first up in the B tier, we have the martial master, the fighter.
The classic warrior, skilled in all manner of weaponry and combat tactics. Mensah highlights there straightforward, reliable damage output, making them a consistent threat in any fight. And they're no slouches when it comes to defense either. Their proficiency in heavy armor and their ability to use shields make them ideal for taking hits and protecting their allies.
They're the ones you want holding the line, preventing enemies from getting past and causing chaos.
Good action economy is another key strength. Features like Action Surge allow them to unleash a flurry of attacks, overwhelming their opponents with sheer martial prowess.
It's like they get a sudden burst of energy, allowing them to push their limits and turn the tide of battle.
And let's not forget about their subclass options. Which can drastically alter their playstyle. The Battle Master, for example, gains tactical superiority through maneuvers, disrupting enemy actions and creating opportunities for their allies.
Ooh! I've always loved playing Battle Masters. It's so satisfying to use a maneuver like Trip Attack to send an enemy sprawling, giving your rogue a perfect chance to sneak in and light a devastating sneak attack.
Exactly. It's all about synergy and working with your party to maximize your effectiveness.
On the other hand, the champion subclass focuses on raw power and critical hits, turning the fighter into a true damage-dealing machine.
They become a whirlwind of steel, cutting through enemies with brutal efficiency. It's a simple but effective playstyle that can be incredibly rewarding.
Mensah emphasizes the importance of choosing the right subclass for your fighter as it can significantly impact how you approach combat and contribute to the party.
Absolutely. Do you want to be a cunning tactician, a brutal berserker, an archer raining arrows from afar, or something else entirely? The fighter offers a variety of paths to martial mastery.
It's a class that rewards players who enjoy the strategic nuances of combat and who like to be in the thick of the action.
Now moving from the battlefield to the shadowy corners of the world, we encounter the master of stealth and cunning, the rogue.
The rogue, always lurking in the shadows, ready to strike with deadly precision. They're the ones you want on your side when you need to infiltrate a fortress, pickpocket a guard, or disable a trap.
Mensah describes them as skilled specialists who excel at single target damage and maneuvering around enemies, often striking from unexpected angles.
Their signature ability, sneak attack, is what makes them so deadly. When they have an advantage on an attack, usually by flanking an enemy or attacking from stealth, they can unleash a devastating blow that can quickly take down even powerful foes.
It's like they find a weak spot in their opponent's defense and exploit it with ruthless efficiency.
And their skill set isn't limited to combat. Rogues are incredibly versatile outside of battle as well. Their expertise feature lets them double down on certain skills, making them masters of things like lockpicking, stealth, and persuasion.
They're the ultimate infiltrators and problem solvers, able to navigate social situations just as effectively as they navigate dungeons and traps.
Mensah highlights the importance of teamwork for rogues, noting that they often rely on their allies to create opportunities for sneak attack.
It's all about synergy. A well-coordinated party can make a rogue an absolute nightmare for their enemies.
I remember playing a rogue once who worked in perfect tandem with the party's paladin. The paladin would charge in and grab the enemy's attention, giving me the perfect opening to flank and unleash my sneak attacks. We were an unstoppable duo.
That's great. It shows how understanding the strengths of different classes and working together as a team can lead to some really creative and effective tactics.
And of course, we can't forget about the rogue subclass options, each offering a different flavor of roguish expertise, whether it's the assassin's deadly efficiency, the thief's nimble fingers, or the swashbuckler's charming flair. There's a rogue for every playstyle.
They're the masters of adaptability, always finding a way to turn a situation to their advantage.
Finally, rounding out our B tier, we have the mysterious Pax-bound Warlock.
The Warlock is a fascinating class, drawing their power from otherworldly patrons and wielding a blend of magic and eldritch might. Mensah emphasizes their unique mechanics, particularly their reliance on invocations and pact boons, which allow for a high degree of customization.
It's like they've made a deal with a powerful entity, gaining access to forbidden knowledge and abilities in exchange for their service.
Their spellcasting is also unique, focusing on a smaller number of spells. But with the ability to regain spell slots on a short rest, this makes them well-suited for campaigns with frequent encounters, as they can keep up with the party's resource expenditure much more easily than other spellcasters.
So they're not as reliant on long rests.
Yeah.
Which can be a real advantage in campaigns.
Yeah.
Where time is of the essence. I remember one campaign where we were constantly on the move, trying to stay ahead of our pursuers. Our Warlock was an absolute lifesaver, always ready with a blast of Eldritch Blast or a well-placed Hex to keep us going.
That makes sense. Mensah points out that choice of patron has a significant impact on their playstyle, influencing their spell list abilities and even their role-playing options.
It really adds a layer of depth and flavor to the class. Do you want to be a master of fire and brimstone, a manipulator of minds, a celestial healer, or something else entirely? The Warlock offers a variety of paths to power, each with its own unique mechanics and thematic elements.
And their invocations are another layer of customization, granting them a wide array of abilities, from enhanced cantrips to otherworldly senses.
They can see in the dark, resist certain types of damage, even teleport short distances. It's like they're constantly evolving, adding new tools to their arsenal as they gain power and experience.
So we've got fighters, rogues, and warlocks, all finding their place in the B tier. What makes these classes stand out from the higher tiers? And what makes them solid choices for players?
I think it comes down to their specialization and their ability to excel in specific areas. They might not have the same raw power or versatility as the S and A tiers, but they offer unique gameplay experiences that could be incredibly rewarding.
They're the player. They're the specialists, the masters of their chosen craft. And in the right hands, they can be just as impactful as any other class.
Now, as we venture deeper into the tier list, we approach the classes that require even more finesse and careful consideration to truly shine. Join us in part 3 as we explore the C tier and the situational picks that can be surprisingly effective in the right campaign.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, exploring the legends of the S tier, the strong and dependable of the A tier, and the solid choices in the B tier. Now we reach the C tier, the realm of the situational picks.
These are the classes that Mensah acknowledges can be incredibly effective, but only when the circumstances are right. They might need a very specific campaign setting, a particular play style, or a well-coordinated party to really shine.
It's a good reminder that tier lists are just guidelines, and that a class's effectiveness can change drastically, depending on the context of the game.
And leading the charge into the C tier is the agile, Kai-powered monk.
Monks are often praised for their incredible mobility and martial arts prowess. They can dart across the battlefield, weaving through enemies, and unleashing a flurry of blows with stunning speed.
Mensah describes them as masters of movement and precision, highlighting their ability to utilize ki, a mystical energy, to enhance their physical ability.
They can do things that would make even the most seasoned adventurer raise an eyebrow, deflect missiles mid-flight, run across water, and even stun their opponents with a well-placed strike.
It's like they've tapped into a hidden potential within themselves, channeling their inner energy to perform feats that seem almost superhuman.
However, Mensah also points out that their damage output can sometimes feel lacking compared to other martial classes, especially in later levels. They might be incredibly skilled, but they don't always pack the same punch as a barbarian raging into battle, or a fighter unleashing a flurry of attack.
That's true. I've played monks before, and I've definitely noticed that their damage can be a bit inconsistent. They excel at disabling enemies and controlling the flow of combat, but they might not be the best choice if you want to be the party's primary damage dealer.
I think it's important to remember that damage isn't everything. Monks offer a unique blend of mobility, crowd control, and utility that can be invaluable to a party.
Absolutely. And their stunning strike ability can be a game changer, especially against powerful enemies. But Mensah emphasizes the importance of using stunning strikes strategically, as their key points are limited resources.
It's all about picking your battles.
Yeah.
And knowing when to unleash those powerful abilities.
That's a classic example of risk and reward. Do you spend your key points early to try to gain control of the fight? Or do you conserve them for a crucial moment later on?
And let's not forget that monks are incredibly versatile outside of combat as well. Their proficiency in skills like acrobatics, stealth, and insight can make them valuable assets for exploration, social interaction, and even investigation.
They're a delight.
Yeah.
They're more than just fighters. They're skilled adventurers who can adapt to a variety of situations.
Next up in the C tier, we have a class that has often been the subject of debate and discussion. The Ranger.
Rangers have. Rangers have had a bit of a tumultuous history in 5th edition D&D, with some players finding them underwhelming compared to other classes.
There have been a lot of discussions online and in gaming communities about how to improve the Ranger, make them feel more powerful and versatile.
But Mensah argues that they can be incredibly effective in the right campaign, particularly those that emphasize wilderness exploration and survival.
They're the Ambanis. They're the ultimate survivalists, the ones you want on your side. When you're venturing into uncharted territory, tracking dangerous creatures, and navigating the perils of the natural world.
Mensah points out their unmatched exploration skills, highlighting their ability to track prey, navigate difficult terrain, and survive in the wilderness with ease.
They're bruisers. They're like living compasses, always aware of their surroundings and able to guide their party through even the most treacherous landscape.
And their connection to nature gives them a certain edge in those environments. They can blend in with their surroundings, move silently through the undergrowth, and even communicate with animals.
However, Mensah also acknowledges that some ranger subclasses are more effective than others.
She specifically mentions the Gloomstalker, a subclass that excels in dark and shadowy environments, making them perfect for campaigns with a horror or stealth focus.
It's a good example of how subclass choice can drastically impact a class's effectiveness, and how important it is to choose a subclass that aligns with your playstyle and the themes of the campaign.
So it's all about finding the right niche for the Ranger, a campaign that plays to their strengths and allows them to truly shine.
Exactly. When they're in their element, Rangers can be incredibly valuable assets to the party.
Now, we've reached the final tier of our deep dive, the D tier.
Mensah describes these classes as potentially challenging, acknowledging that they might require more creativity, strategic thinking, and careful planning to be effective.
They're often considered the underdogs, the classes that many players overlook or dismiss as weak.
Yeah.
But as we've seen with the other tiers, every class has its strengths, and even those in the D tier can be surprisingly effective in the right hands.
And representing the D tier in all its rage and glory is the Barbarian.
The Barbarian. A whirlwind of primal fury, known for their incredible strength, resilience, and, well, their tendency to smash things.
Mensah acknowledges their raw power and durability, highlighting their ability to enter a rage. That enhances their physical abilities and grants them resistance to damage.
They become unstoppable forces of nature, capable of weathering blows that would cripple other adventurers, and dishing out devastating attacks with their bare hands or their chosen weapon.
But she also points out that their lack of tactical finesse and their limited skill set can make them difficult to play effectively, especially in campaigns that require more than just brute force.
They're not exactly known for their strategic thinking or their subtle approach to problem solving.
Their rage, while incredibly powerful, can also be a double-edged sword. It makes them more reckless and prone to acting impulsively, which can sometimes lead to unintended consequences.
I remember one campaign where our barbarian, in a fit of rage, accidentally destroyed a crucial piece of evidence we needed to solve a mystery, let's just say. The rest of the party wasn't too thrilled about it.
That sounds like a classic barbarian moment. But despite their limitations, barbarians can still be incredibly fun and effective characters to play.
Mensah suggests leaning into their subclasses, such as the Totem Warrior, which offers a variety of useful abilities, inspired by animal spirits. Or the Zealot, which adds a religious fervor to their rage, making them even more formidable in combat.
It's all about finding ways to enhance their strengths and mitigate their weaknesses, working with your party to create opportunities where their brute force and resilience can truly shine.
So there you have it, folks. The D&D Class Tier List 2024. From the legendary S tier to the potentially challenging D tier. It's been a fascinating journey, exploring the nuances of each class and how their effectiveness can vary depending on the context of the game.
I think it's important to remember that tier lists are just one perspective, and the best class for you is ultimately the one that speaks to your imagination, your play style, and the kind of stories you want to tell in your D&D games.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to experiment. Or step outside your comfort zone and to try classes that might not be at the top of the tier list. You might be surprised at what you discover.
And remember, the most important thing is to have fun.
Couldn't agree more. And a big shout out to Paul Bello, fine fellow, for sending us this article. It sparked a great conversation. Now we want to hear from you. What D&D class do you think is the most underrated? Head down to the comments and let us know why you think your chosen class deserves more love.